All right, so before I, lay down all these facts and go through this video in the way I want to go through it, I wanted to state a couple of things. All right, first off, no one hurt me. Number two, I'm a Chad. I'm a type of individual who's out here fucking your girlfriend on a regular basis. Number three, I got daughters. I got a mom. I got a sister. I got a grandma who's the most amazing lady I've ever met in my entire life. She had 14 kids and an adopted one. She's a fucking angel. All right? I love women. I'm not angry. I'm not mad. This is just something that needs to be said. All right? And you have to understand that one way or another this is going to happen. Western women aren't having kids. Muslims are. And either we do this or they will. Just depends on which one you choose. All right? Let's get into it. All right, so let's start off with some basic information on what shit is, so we all understand and agree on terms. All right, now when we speak about the government, all right, we have to understand what the actual purpose of the government is for, right? And originally the government is only meant for two things: one, defense, and two, to set a market. All right, when we say defense, it means this. So say you have two tribes of individuals, all right? Each of them have like a whole bunch of buffalo that they're hunting, or bison, whatever the case might be. All right? And one runs into a circumstance where all the fucking bison dies. They overhunt them, or the population gets to be too big, whatever. They end up fucking needing more bison. Now, see, you have your group of bison that you're hunting, all right? Fucking deer, whatever. Your territory, okay? And these individuals start coming in and poaching yours. Well, you can go the cooperative route, let them help out. But the bitch is, now you got two people eating off of your supply. And here soon you run into a problem where, guess what? You don't have enough to feed yourself anymore. And you're down to like one or two bison. Now you're going to have a fucking conflict. And that is the very basics and beginnings of government. All right, that's really the whole thing, is cooperation to motherfucking defend your tribe against somebody else's who's coming to take your shit. And I know individuals go, oh man, we don't really need government. I hear these ridiculous ass hand cat motherfuckers. We just need the non-aggressive principle. Get the fuck out of here. All right, people get hungry, motherfuckers get hungry. They come and take your shit. And that's why we have things like fucking police officers to go murder the motherfuckers when they come and try to take your shit. This is what the government is here for. Now, the second part was to set a market. And that means we all agree, and that's what the government is. It's we. And the government is us as people, right? We all agree on what the hell we're doing. Well, most of us don't. You couldn't get 5 people in a room to agree to what to put on top of a fucking pizza, let alone what type of laws we should fucking have. But we still try as human beings, to have some basic rights and structures and principles. I think America has gotten it more right than anybody else in the history of the world thus far. Now, with that being said, and I apologize for the car noise in the background. I'm hanging out at the truck stop, chilling, recording this motherfucking video. Fucking, and, there's not a whole lot of insulation. And I'm up against the road. But, so, with that being said, the laws, okay, that govern us as men, like what's legal and what is illegal, and infrastructure, firefighters, ambulances, these are all part of the market. All right, it's all part of, we agree what you are and are not allowed to fucking do and sell inside of this motherfucking nation, inside of our community, inside of our state, inside of our province, inside of our colony, whatever the case might be. That is what the government, very basic, is here to do. And everything else stretches out from upon that. All right. All the things of, you know what I mean, fucking your Social Security, Medicare, fucking taking care of people. It all really begins from those two basic fucking principles and expands outward. And depending on how far it expands, depends on your populace and how dependent they are upon you. And depending on who you allow to vote for your fucking elected leaders, or whether or not you have kings and queens and monarchs. You know, it all depends. All right. All of it really depends on your situation. Now, in America, it started off as a group of agricultural fucking farmers, right? Trying to form a more perfect government away from a king who had colonized the land. And these governors wanted to be governed on their own because they were independent individuals who wanted to have a land that they could call their own and run and govern themselves and not be taxed heavily to pay for a monarch or a dictator, you know, 2,000, 4,000, 5,000 miles away in a different country. Right? And that's been the spirit of America for the longest. And so from 1776 to 1920, this is how we ran our government. We had the mentality that we wanted to be pretty much just left alone to our own vices. And we would take care of things as individuals. We entrusted our families to build good communities, to build good states, to make a more perfect nation. That's what we did. And it worked really fucking well. And it still works today, believe it or not. But the problem is, in 1919, we allowed a group of individuals to vote for the first time in mass and allowed universal suffrage. Individuals who had no stake in the game at all to vote, to elect our fucking leaders, to make decisions. And it ended up fucking up the entire goddamn fucking process. Now, with the 13 million single mother households inside the United States right now, and I think the number's actually higher than that, to be perfectly honest with you, what that means is there's 13 million extra houses that we're using that we don't need to. Houses, apartments, whatever you want to call them, units that we have that we don't need to fucking be using right now. Why? Because it should be mom, dad, and the kids. Instead, it's mom and the kids, and then dad in his own motherfucking place. Add to that, that's 2 refrigerators, 2 microwaves, 2 fucking couches, 2 love seats, 2 of damn near everything. So what does that mean? Well, that means there's extra shit being made that don't need to be made, which causes fucking pollution. You want to talk about the reason why we have all these issues with the motherfucking climate? You want to talk about all this extracurricular fucking bullshit? All this extra food that's being made and processed that don't need to be fucking made and processed. The extra fucking car that's going to be needed to drive whoever it is, to drive the dad to and from fucking work. Add to that, when women joined the workforce, you gained an extra 30% of the fucking workforce. Right? So when you gained an extra 30% of the workforce, what does that do? Well, when you have more people, when you have more of something, the value goes down. Why do you think it is we haven't had a raise since the 1970s when women entered the workforce en masse? Why do they want women in STEM fields? Why do they want women in higher paying positions? So they can pay less for the positions. So they can pay less for STEM majors. And you say, oh, wow, they're giving extra money for women to come there. For a little bit. For a little bit. You know what I mean? Until it becomes a normal fucking thing. And then all of a sudden it's, oh, guess what? You know what I mean? Now we have more people than we need in the STEM fields. That tends to be how it works. The good news is that females can't really do STEM. And I mean, they're not really intelligent enough to compete with the dudes. But if they push them in there, then it becomes worthless. This is how these things operate. It's how it's operated forever. All right? They've stood here and filled up fucking call centers. They've stood here and filled up offices and things of this nature. You know, in Korea, they had a company where they decided to split the men and women in half because they were having all these sexual harassment lawsuits, whatever. They said, well, we'll put the men in one building, women in another. Well, they come to find out the women didn't do any goddamn work. So they just fired all the women. You know, this tends to be how things operate. All right. Women shouldn't be in the workforce the way they are. Now, women have always worked. All right. Get nothing misunderstood. They've always been, you know what I mean, cashiers and, you know, ticket takers, teachers, things of this nature. All right. And understand, even as teachers, all right, the education system in America has been on a downward slope since its very inception. Did you know in Boston in 1812, 100% of all free men knew how to read? 100%. 100. That number ain't that high no more. All right. And do you know only 60% of women knew how to read? You know what that means? It means it wasn't the moms teaching the kids. That's an idea that we need to get away from. The idea that moms care about kids, that women care about kids. Because they really don't. Women care about babies, right? They like babies. And I mean small infants and whatnot. They really actually like themselves. All right, but they really, you know, I mean, they really, you know, they'll care about babies. But when it becomes a child, they really don't give a shit about it anymore. All right? That's why you see a lot of these cases where women will kill their kids. They'll beat the shit out of them. Abuse from a mother is far more likely than abuse from a father. Though, if you ask popular culture, you say it was the dad who abused him. But it's just not the truth. Because we have this idea inside of our head of this weak, small, frail creature. And it is. And it's a weak, small, frail creature who isn't as intelligent as a male of our species. See, we're sexually dimorphic, which means that there's differences between men and women. Men on average are 3 times stronger than women. All right. The average male is 3 times stronger than the average female of our species. Females have more fat in their body. Females are also on average short a cup of gray matter inside of their head as compared to a male. And all the ideas, you know, that study that they came out with, you know, with the whole, you know, females and males, you know, they have basically the same IQ. There's more women in the middle, just more men at the extremes. Well, that was done on a test of 11 to 14-year-old kids back in the 1970s. And they refused to do another test. Well, they did another test on full-grown adults, but they immediately threw away the results because it showed that women on average had like about a 20% IQ difference when it came to men. That tends to be how it operates. All right. There's a lot of things that they don't tell you about inside of our society. All right. Women don't have to sign up for the draft. They don't have the blood, sweat, and tears inside of our country like the rest of us do. They didn't build this shit like we did. They didn't go and they didn't go inside of the mines. They weren't up on top of a skyscraper. They weren't out here laying down railroad tracks. They weren't down here motherfucking picking cotton. Well, they might have been. They might have been. Some of them were. Some of them weren't. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? But women in general, all right, didn't build this nation like we did. We built it for them. To protect them. To give them and our offspring a better life. That's what we do as men. That's what we're supposed to do as men. And once we gave them the right to vote, they decided to take that right to vote, give themselves divorce rights, join the workforce en masse, give themselves free shit. To stand here and be able to kill babies whenever they wanted to. Oh, we're going to get into that. 685,000 children a year. It's going down, but not by a whole lot. It used to be 1.2 million a year. You know what I mean? Back in the 1990s. You know, it was about 40% of our population. Now it's only about 20. This is what women do. It's the cost of women's freedom, the cost of women's suffrage. It's the destruction of our population. the 27% of all fucking county inmates who are in jail for fucking child support, basically in debtors' prisons. All the individuals who went to jail for selling drugs in the fucking ghettos and the hoods because they had to leave mama's house at 18 because guess what? Now mama's going to have to pay rent, so you gots to go because she's in Section 8. And he has to be able to support himself, and he's only 18 years old. He might have knocked up some female, end up in a bad position. She's in Section 8 too, but she can stay where she's at. He can't. He has to provide for himself and pay child support. 18 years old. No way of surviving. Ends up selling drugs, man. It is what it is. Guess what? Boom. Into the cage with the rest of them. That ain't racism. It don't sound like racism to me. What that sounds like is Section 8. Sounds like feminism to me. Sounds like females rights, females freedoms. It's the cost of females' freedoms is men's freedom. It's our society as a whole is the cost of females' freedom. This is how this operates. And here's the thing. We're at the point where women aren't even having enough kids to continue to fucking move on the population. Now, see, I'm not a big proponent of that ideology, but I understand that, you know, we put ourselves in debt for all these social programs, which, by the way, women pay no taxes. They're a net tax drain. They pay 30% of the taxes, get 70% of all the fucking benefits. Yeah, some shit that they don't tell you, right? They pay no taxes. They're a net tax drain on the country. But we have to pay for their fucking future social spending. Because, you know, heaven forbid, they learn how to shut up, be in a good relationship, and stop thinking about things. But that's where we are as a whole with our society. What's the cost of women's freedom? Our society's freedom as a whole. And now that we're not having enough kids, they want to bring in more people from across the world. They're going to stand here and drive wages down even further. They're going to stand here and bring in individuals who are completely antithetical to the viewpoints of how we have built this country. Why? Because women's freedom is more important than our society as a whole. Again, I say, repeal the 19th. Take away these freedoms and privileges in which they have not earned them. And you can say what you want about us, but we grind. We get out here and we build this shit. And we make things happen every day, as we always have. And yeah, men are walking away from the situation at this point because it's gotten too bad with the false rape accusations, with the divorce rape in this country, child support, alimony, spousal support. All these systems set up to destroy men and to help women at the same time. So I say, at what point do we stand up and go, enough's enough, and take it by force? It is what it is. But yo, it's Tom Pease with Pinoid News. Y'all do me a favor. Drop me a like. Drop me a comment. Hit me up. You want to debate? I'll come on and debate the ideas with you. It is what it is. I have no problem having a conversation. But in the meantime, man, y'all enjoy yourself. Hit that sub button. Hit that notification bell. Make sure you know I get a new video. Check me out on fucking Twitter. All the links is in the goddamn description. Holla at your boy. Peace.